So you just signed up for your first Run Disney race. There's plane tickets and park tickets and training and, well, what else? Welcome to Always Running Forward. I'm your host, Justin Stone. And today what I want to talk about is running and Disney. More specifically, running at Disney. Run Disney races. They're wildly popular. They've been going on for years and years and years, and they're only growing in popularity. And so why did I set up this video about Run Disney races specifically? Well, a couple of reasons. One, you may have just signed up for your first Run Disney race, and then you're like, I have no idea what to do. Is this like a regular race that I go to? I now have to book flights and hotels, and I have to sign waivers beforehand and give in times, proof of times. There's just a lot going on. And also, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've run basically every series under the sun, and I like doing it. I've done it at the very, very front of the pack, and I've done it at the very, very back of the pack, pacing some runners. Now, I'm not a Disney YouTuber or Disney blogger, so I'm not going to show you the latest thing or which hotel to stay at. I'm not even going to tell you how to register for the Run Disney races. I'm just going to assume that you have already been able to register for one of the races, and you're looking for a little bit more information. So here are my top 8 tips for enjoying your Run Disney race. First of all, and I want to set this out as tip number 1 because I think this is the most important out of all of them, setting expectations, and set those expectations early, not just for the race, but also for the trip. There's a lot involved, as you can imagine, with a Disney vacation. Not to mention, there's a lot of distraction when you're there. And if you're running a race or multiple races over the weekend, like the Dopey or the Goofy, you kind of need to set the expectations at the onset to make sure you're going in with the right mindset and you're not going to be disappointed or kind of thrown at the last minute because if things don't go your way. Let's think about the vacation first, setting expectations for your vacation. Now, do you really want to make this a vacation with a run in the middle of it? Or do you want to make it like a runcation and maybe some rides and some crappy theme park food and all that stuff? There is so much time dedicated to the races. You've got the expo, you've got to get up super early, then you run, and then you've got to make sure that you're recovering properly, and then you're going to bed early. And again, if it's Dopey, that's 4 specific days. Out of a week vacation, like that's a lot of time dedicated to a series of races. So if you go with your family, you may not have the same experience that your family has. Or maybe you think about going solo. Maybe you just go, you run, and then you come back home. Either way, it's just making sure that you understand what you need to do and how you need to go about it to make sure that you're having the best race experience that you possibly are. What I always advocate for is the minute after you register is start to get on things like Team Run Disney on Facebook, start doing some research via Googling, watching YouTube videos, and trying to figure out like, what is this whole crazy thing about? I'm running through castles, I'm running past, people are getting on rides as they're running. There's like, is there any good food at Disney? Like that's good for runners and kind of, right? So the more that you can think about that and kind of set your expectations, you're going to be in a much better mindset. Also, setting expectations for your race. Now, Run Disney races are not like your typical big races like Chicago, Boston, New York, any of those. And the reason being is because it's in Disney World or Disneyland, which has a different vibe to it. It's also a wider swath of runners with different running experiences. Some runners are super fast and they know exactly like what they want to do or they've run so many times that they know how to get in and out of people and get the best race experience that they want. And there's other runners who have never run before, might be trying their first 5K, might be trying their first multi-race series. They don't understand the unwritten rules of the road about how walkers stand or how you say on your left or anything like that. And that can be frustrating for experienced runners. I'm not going to lie. I used to get super fired up about people who just didn't understand kind of the rules of the road. I've learned to kind of roll with the punches because I've now kind of taken a step back in terms of like the severity of how I treat these races. Now it's just like me going to have fun and hanging out with my friends and running a little bit and all that fun stuff. But if it's your first time, it's important to understand that you're gonna have to kind of roll with the punches a little bit. It doesn't mean that you've got to not run the race that you want. I'm just saying, are you gonna PR if you're a really experienced runner? It's really gonna depend where you're at. I've been blessed to be at the front of the corrals since I've started running. That's not a humble brag, but it's not, because Disney, again, is a different kind of category for running than, say, a major race at another destination. But I've also paced runners in the back, and I've seen just how many people, it's like arm to arm people trying to run. If you are in the back because you didn't submit a proof of time and you're trying to PR, that can be very, very frustrating, and it can ruin your whole weekend. So set those expectations up front, and also know that you're going to have to adjust it a little bit. Tip number 2 is packing. Oh boy, this could be its own series in itself. I have run Disney races when it's 25 degrees, when it's 50 degrees, when it's 100 degrees, when it's 75 degrees, when it's raining, when it's super sunny, hail, locusts. I've basically run it in every experience, and all I can really say is pack everything. It's better to be prepared than not prepared, or have to then go to the expo and spend more money on something that you already own at home, and then you're kind of fuming about that. So what I do, and I'm going to start with, because I run the Dopey every year, I'm going to kind of adjust, I'm going to say for the amount of races I do, but you adjust accordingly. If you're running one race, different story. I'll do 2 pairs of shoes, and everyone should always have 2 pairs of shoes, because there's quite the opportunity for rain in Florida, especially, well, any time. So good to have 2 pairs of shoes. I'll bring 5 pairs of shorts, 5 shirts, 5 pairs of socks, 5 pairs of running underwear. Now, it's only 4 races during the weekend, but it's always good to have just one safety pair instead of having to like double up. Oh, I should also mention really quickly, when you pick up your packets, you're going to get shirts. Disney loves to give away race shirts. There's kind of an unwritten rule. Don't wear the shirt of the race of the day that it's racing. It means if you're running the 5K, don't wear the 5K shirt until after the race. If you're running the 10K, don't wear the 10K shirt the day of the 10K. Is that something that is like the cardinal sin of running? Absolutely not. It's a little faux pas, and to me, it's bad luck. I'm not going to mess with fate until I finish that race. The minute I'm done with that race, yeah, I'm throwing that shirt on. I'm showing everybody, along with my medal, I just ran this race, but I'm not going to wear it during the race. It's also, they tend to be long sleeve and hot and heavy and scratchy, and they're just not great running shirts. No matter what the guide says that they're tech shirts, they're not. So anyways, 5 pairs of shorts, 5 shirts, 5 pairs of socks, 2 pairs of shoes. Then I'll bring my running watch and its charger, a running belt, all my necessary nutrition, because again, that's something you don't want to really change or have to buy at the expo. I did that once. I used Tri-Berry goo, and I forgot it, and I had to buy goo at the expo, but all that was left was unflavored goo, and it tasted like somebody took sugar on a frying pan and fried it. And I retched, but I had to eat something, and it was awful. So make sure, again, that you're prepared. I also bring a hat, a running hat, some gloves. Sometimes I need them, sometimes I don't. Arm warmers, and then I'll bring a jacket as well. I also bring some throwaway clothes. And if you're asking, why do you bring throwaway clothes? Well, to throw them away, specifically. I'll go to the Salvation Army, or some people bring Mylar blankets, and this is specifically when you're standing in the corral and it's windy or it's cold and you're waiting for the race to start. You've got something to kind of keep yourself warm and huddled up, and then the minute that it's time to start the race, you just throw it over to the side. And what's cool about Disney takes all of that throwaway clothing and then they donate it again. And lastly, I like to take my race clothes and put them in little Ziploc baggies for each race. So the 5K, 10K, half, full. And that way I can pull them out. I know exactly where they are, throw them on, get ready for the race. And then when I'm done, I stick them right back in, seal it up, and I don't have to worry about it until I get home. So I'm not kind of stinking up the rest of my suitcase. I also like to write a little mantra of each of the race, of something for that race. So it kind of gets me ready for the race that day. So 5K is like, have fun. 10K, race hard. Here's your goal time. Half marathon, try a little harder, stretch out your legs. Marathon, don't die. Like those kind of fun things that just make me, again, feel like I'm ready to run that race. Here's tip 3 for your Run Disney experience. Be an Expo Pro. Oh my goodness. There are so many things about the Run Disney Expos, especially in Walt Disney World. They take up like 3 gigantic, almost like the arenas of different things. You've got your bib pickup, you've got the expo, and then you've got all the merch. I love bib pickup. It's one of my favorite parts of race weekend. And that's because that's where it becomes real. That's where it's like, hey, you're about to run, like all these people are about to run with you, and it's time. Like all that training, all that waiting, all that planning is now here. And I've always said this since from 2009 to 2024. There's an energy within the expo. There's a quiet energy, and I love it. I don't know how to explain it, but maybe you probably feel it when you go in, because then somebody hands you that bib, you see your number, you see the corral you're going to start in, you know, the Run Disney signs are out, so everyone's taking pictures. It feels very much like almost the first day of school to me, if that sounds kind of weird, because I'm running into old friends. There's an energy that's kind of familiar, but it's kind of unknown, and I absolutely love it. But I don't need the merch and all that stuff, so I just kind of beeline after after I get my bib. But the expo is really great because that's where you pick up your shirts, and there are some really good vendors there. If you want merch and you're really all about getting the merch, you want to get to the expo early. Disney's doing a really good job of trying to help manage the merch situation. What I mean by that is a lot of times people will go to the expo and they'll buy up all the merch and they'll sell it on eBay. Those people are the worst, but you see them, they just pile stuff on and then they don't leave anything for the runners. It's frustrating, and Disney knows it, but Disney's doing a couple of things here and there. One is at registration, they're offering more merch for you to buy during that time. They're stocking daily, and they're also doing virtual queue lines where you can sign up early, get a specific time to go do your shopping, and then get your bib and all that stuff. If you want to get some of the merch, I would get to the expo early, and I would also make sure that you're reading the guide that comes out online a couple weeks before the race weekend to make sure that you're knowing exactly how you want to navigate that expo. Here's one gigantic caveat about going early. It is packed when it's early. It is wall to wall people, mainly because it's those horrible Disney shopping people that I can't stand, and most people can't. But it's also people who just don't know how to kind of work the system in terms of like first time running, so they don't know, they just kind of show up. And there's just the general excitement of the expo, so a lot of people are there. And I am the person who, like, I just don't need the merch. I've done this enough. I just want to get my bib and maybe do a quick run around the expo and get out. I usually go like at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock on that first day, and it's like ghost town. You walk right in and you grab your bib, and then you grab your shirts, and then I'm out the door. So it's really up to you setting expectations. If you want to like get in and get stuff, you got to get there early, and you're going to have to slog it out with people. There's just no way about it. If you're more like me and you're super chill and you just want to get your bib, go later in the day. The other thing too I want to call out about the expo and the races as well is all the Disney resorts on property and some hotels off property will offer shuttles to and from the expo as well as the races. So if you feel like you don't want to drive in or you can't drive in, maybe check into your hotel, and then right out front you'll see a Run Disney Expo sign, and you can board those buses and you can take a chauffeured ride into the expo, get everything that you want, and then take a bus back. So that way it sets a little bit little less stress on you to try to get there. My tip 4, make the race a priority. Now, I've talked about earlier about setting expectations, but make your race a priority. Running's hard, right? Like, there's no two ways about it. Running is hard, and if you don't have the right mindset going into the race, or you haven't prepared yourself accordingly, you're not going to have a good race. You're not going to have a good time. Make sure that you're following some kind of training plan, or that you're getting in your long runs. Make sure that you're thinking about your nutrition strategy. Make sure that you're understanding how the corrals are set up and when do you start, versus just kind of getting there and walking around and being like, well, I'm just going to go do it. I've done that. I've been in those experiences where I've just absolutely like not been ready and did not make a race a priority, and it was hell. It was terrible. I made the most of it because, again, it's Disney, right? Like, it's not like we're running in the middle of nowhere. So there are ways to kind of pull yourself out of it. But it's really important from a mindset standpoint, as well as just a physical standpoint, is you got to still make that race or set of races a priority, and not just like, I'm going to get to the Magic Kingdom at 8 a.m. and I'm going to leave at midnight, and then I have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I have to go run this race. You'll fall apart. And kind of rolling into that is tip 5, which is get to the races early. I can't stress this enough. I used to hate this thing as a kid. I had a little band director who used to say, early is on time is late. And I was like, whatever that means. But that is so right as it comes to Disney races. I'm not kidding. there are so many people at these races, people lining up for buses at resorts, people driving in, walking from the buses through security all the way out to the starting line, walking to the corrals. Disney likes to change things from year to year, so it's not always the same. So what I like to do is I like to kind of put everything into my bag the day before. I will set 2 alarms and I will get up super, super early. Some people even sleep in their running clothes the night before. That's fine. Like, I don't judge. I think that's a great idea if you're okay with that. But I then try to get on the very, very first bus, which I think is at 3 o'clock in the morning or 3:30, and kind of get through all the melee that happens. And then in the runners area, I pick out a little spot that's just for me, and I kind of sit down. I have an Uncrustable to eat. I change into my running shoes. I might listen to a pre-race mix of like chill out music. So I just kind of get centered, and I'm trying to make sure that I have given myself the best chance to enjoy my race. If you're coming in late, and actually, I should say this, I've been on buses where the bus driver has gotten lost, and not kidding, had to sit at the passenger seat and tell the bus driver where to go. I worked at Disney for like 7 years, so I know that place inside and out. And I was like, no, you go here onto World Drive, and then you make a right. And we all got there, but we were super, super late. So I was throwing off stuff, and I was throwing it to my wife, who was in a farther back corral, and she went to gear check for me, and I had to go run to get into the front corral. And it's harried, right? Some people like that energy. I don't like that energy. I like to be super chill and centered. And so I get there as early as I can and just make sure I'm ready to go. Plus, it gives me time to warm up. It's always good to try and put in maybe a mile's worth of just easy jogging so that your body's ready to go. So I can't stress this enough. Get to the race early. Not so much a tip, but it's just the race experience. And there's a series of, I guess, sub tips within it. We've talked a little bit about getting to the race, getting the race early. Now, when you're at the race, and then we talked about expectations, is expect that you're going to have a good time and you're going to feel kind of jittery and excited. There's music going on and people are talking on microphones. There's characters running around. There are old friends getting together. You just kind of get drawn into all the excitement. If this is your first Run Disney race, there is a ton of fanfare that's going on, but there's also a whole lot of hurry up and wait, especially if you're in a later corral. You've got the MCs and the talent talking up on stage. You've got people in the crowd talking. You're watching tons of videos, but you're all kind of packed in like sardines, and you're not doing a whole lot of moving for a good 30 to 45 minutes. When you get to the starting line, there is a natural inclination to take off as fast as possible. It happens every single race. I see it every single time, and it's totally okay. Is that you're so amped by the time you're ready to go, the fireworks are going off and all that stuff, that you just want to run, right? You just want to go, and everyone's doing the same thing. I guarantee you, if that's not your race strategy, you are going to be gassed way before the end of the race. I've seen it a million times that I will take off and runners will take off and they will zip in and out past people going like the speed of light. And almost every time I run right past them. And I just say to myself, ha 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 ha, got too excited and you forgot about your race strategy and you kind of fell apart. There are so many different things that can impact your run, the weather, your training, all these things, but you know exactly what you need to do to succeed. And by following the lead of all the runners around you or getting too excited about what's going on around you, that is going to negatively affect your race. So if you can, try and kind of stay in your headspace. If everyone's going way too fast, just move over to the right, run your race, run your pace. That is the most important thing I can tell you, because it's far easier to lose a race at the start than it is at the finish line. Also, you want to think about things like on-race entertainment. Disney every mile has got these great things like characters and bands and all this great stuff that if you want to stop and take a picture, it's going to add maybe 3 to 4 minutes of your finish time each time you stop. So what I would say is, if you want to do that, make sure that you've got your camera out, because the photographers will use your phone or your camera to take a picture of you. But if you want to just have the Run Disney people do it, make sure your bib is visible, because then that immediately goes back up into your PhotoCloud account or your PhotoPass account, and then you're able to see it a whole lot later. I very rarely stop for characters. I think I've stopped for like a Dopey and like an Oswald or something like that. If I'm feeling particularly dumb at the moment, like I'm like, okay, I'll stop. I typically don't do that because I just like to run and I put my headphones on and I'm gone. But that's no reason for you not to stop. And if you do, just remember the lines can get pretty long, especially if you're farther in a farther corral. Those lines can get really, really long. Don't start to freak out and be like, I got to run fast to catch up. Just get your picture, keep running, keep running. I guarantee you'll start to catch up once you get your groove and take it easy. The other thing too is if you've never run a runDisney race, there might be this perception that it's all the time in the parks. Like there's so much running time in the parks. Disneyland is kind of like that, especially the 10K and the 5K, which are chef's kiss, best races in the world. For Disney World, it's not. These parks are pretty far apart and you've got to get to them. So what I like to do, at least I've started to do fairly recently, is I will run slower in the parks and faster outside the parks, because inside the park, especially at Magic Kingdom, is wow, it's so exciting. That's the first time you're kind of seeing fans. You're running down Main Street, you're running through the castle. It is really, it's a, dare I say, magical experience. But having all that kind of amps you up, gets the adrenaline going. You're going to find yourself running a little bit faster. And by the time you get out of the Magic Kingdom, you've got that long stretch of nothing. You're going to be like, oh my God, why did I run so fast? So what I do is when I come into the Magic Kingdom or Epcot or Disney Hollywood Studios or Animal Kingdom, I just slow it down. I just slow it down and I high five fans and I take it in, because that's kind of why we run where we run. It's those experiences right there. The minute you get out of Frontierland back gate and you're back in the middle of nowhere towards Grand Floridian and Bear Island Road, which is the worst, then I speed it up. I've saved energy. I've had a great time experiencing in the parks, and now I've got a little bit of juice left to kind of get me to the next park. And I never really thought about that before until recently. I was looking at some of the data from my races and I was noticing how fast I was going through the parks. And I was like, that's absurd. Why would I waste my time? Why would I not spend time there and kind of eat the time where it kind of sucks to run? And so I started just to hang back, and I found that it's very, very, very successful for me. So that might be a way you want to go about it. Take your time in the parks, go a little bit faster outside. And then lastly, as you're finishing, you've got announcers announcing your name. You've got fans cheering you on. There's a giant finish sign. There's characters, and it's really, really, really exciting. So go for it, right? If you see that finish line, just go for it. You've put in the work. You put in the effort. Have fun. Get it done, and really enjoy the race. My tip 6 for runDisney experiences is have a strong post-race strategy. What does that even mean? Does it mean get my medal and go take a bunch of pictures? Yeah, but it also means how you're going to get back to the hotel. What are you going to do afterwards? Do you have a race the next day? That's all going to impact how that you have a good experience. So when I finish, I'll usually hang out a little bit. I'll eat the box of food that they give us with the plastic cheese and all that good stuff. You'll see if you've never run before what I mean. And then I will change out of my running shoes into my OOFOS flip-flops so that my feet feel comfortable. I'll probably slip on the day of the race shirt, right? So if it's a 5K, I'll throw the 5K shirt on. And then I try and get back to the hotel as soon as possible. As I said before, there are buses that take you back to your resort. Now, word of caution, if the bus is empty, they will not send you back at a specific time. They will wait until that bus is full. I experienced it this year. I waited almost an hour to get back to my hotel, and my legs were starting to stiffen up because I've been sitting in that bus for so long. And not to mention I stunk and everybody stunk. So just not much you can do about it other than if the bus isn't full, you can kind of mill about outside the bus until they're ready to go, or you get on and just make sure you're stretching and rolling out really, really good before you get on the bus. Otherwise you might kind of run into a bad experience. The other thing too is now what happens for the rest of the day. A lot of people go back to their rooms, take a shower, and then they go to sleep. I would strongly suggest not doing that. Again, going back to the stiffness of your body, that's the time when your body is starting to do its best to the inflammation's coming down, and your slow twitch fibers are starting to heal themselves a little bit. So you're going to get that natural stiffness. You need to get up and keep moving. So what I do is I take a shower. Then I go into like the food hall. I eat like a hearty breakfast, like pancakes and sausage and whatever. I grab a ton of water, and then I just go for a walk. Either I'll walk around the resort, or I might go to like a park. And it's totally okay to go to a theme park the day you race, even if you have a race tomorrow. But it's not about staying all day at that park. It's also spending a lot more time on benches. Just sit, relax, drink water, have a light snack. Don't fill up on a super massive lunch if you can help it. But the more that you can move around, the better. And I will usually get back to the resort about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I will have like a light snack. I'll walk around the resort a little bit more. I might sit down a little bit, might go to a bar for a second, and then I'll have a pretty decent dinner of pizza, like a slice of pizza, and I'll be in bed by 9 o'clock. And by that way, I know that at least I've given myself a chance to have a good race the next day. So get on the bus, take a shower, walk around a little bit, eat a decent breakfast, maybe a light lunch, another snack, and then like have a decent dinner. Carb loading thing is a scam. Don't ever carb load the night before. You're going to poop your pants. So I would not do that. Get in bed early, and then you start it all over again. It's about being disciplined, prepared, and setting expectations in between races, which is going to give you the best opportunity to have the best race experience. Now, tip number 7 is probably my favorite of all of these, which is celebrate the shit out of it. You did it. You just ran a race, 2 races, 3 races, 4 races in a weekend, and you survived. You've lived to tell the tale. Damn right, you have every right to tell everybody of what you just did. Wear that medal, wear that shirt. You'll be surprised on how many people just come up to you in the parks and say, hey, you just ran that? Congratulations. Embrace the clank, wear all the medals, who cares? Instagram everywhere. Like, this is your moment. You should be absolutely proud of what you did. You put in the training, you got the registration in, right? You got to the races, you ran everything. Why not be able to celebrate? A lot of people go to the Magic Kingdom and you'll see folks take pictures of their medals in front of Cinderella Castle. It's really popular because it's such an iconic location. I do something a little bit different. I actually just go to the bar. I meet my friends and we just go to one of the bars. Wilderness Lodge has got a great low-key bar. Boardwalk's got one, Port Orleans. And yeah, we'll take medal pictures, but it's not, for us, it's really not about the medals anymore. Like, we celebrate our own way, and I don't mean like we're going crazy. It just means like, it's like we did it, it's done, we're celebrating, but that everyone gets to celebrate a different way. And make sure, yeah, scream from the mountaintops. You just ran a race. You just ran a runDisney race. You got a medal to prove it, and you should certainly enjoy it and let other people enjoy it too. And rolling into tip number 8, have fun. Just have fun. It's Disney. Yes, it's hot and crowded and sometimes difficult. And yes, there's not a lot of good food to eat at the parks, especially for runners. So you've got to kind of set your expectations the right way. And yes, some runners don't know what they're doing, but that's all kind of the charm and the fun of it. It's rolling with the punches. It's saying to myself, yeah, you know what? Let's just do this thing. And that's kind of what I did. I got to be honest, when I first started running these races, I was really serious, and I probably wasn't a whole lot of fun to be around, because all I wanted to do was run fast and PR, and I would get angry if I didn't, or if someone got in my way. And that was a long time ago, and I've kind of mellowed out quite a bit since then, because my expectation is not to have this lofty goal of trying to beat the fastest time I've ever run a certain race. I just like to have fun. I just like to see my friends. I love running through the parks. If it rains, it rains. If it snows, it snows. If it's hot, it's hot. If the course is terrible this year, it's terrible. One foot in front of the other just means you're meeting a goal. And that has really helped me kind of reframe the way that I have fun at the parks. And so there you have it, my top 8 tips for runDisney running experience. If you're a first-time runDisney runner, congratulations, welcome to the club. A lot of us have been doing this a very, very long time, and it's still somewhat unique and fresh and enjoyable. I will say I've met some unbelievably wonderful people through runDisney races, some of my closest friends in the world that I would just lay down and die for them if needed. That's the kind of relationships that we've been able to get through runDisney. And I'm not sorry about that. You know, I know some people say, like, you run at Disney? That's so weird. That's so, like, goofy. Why would you do that? They don't know. They don't know what they're missing. And just enjoy it, right? Like, just lean into turn into the skid a little bit, because it's fun. It's a lot of work. Running's a lot of work. Why not run through a castle and through a gigantic replication or recreation of Grauman's Chinese Theater, or the Tower of Terror? why not take a picture with Goofy? Why not picture Adobe? Like, own it. And I think that's the best part. It took me actually a long time to kind of own it, and now I do. And so I would love to share that information with you, which I have. And if you have runDisney tips, I'd love to hear them. Put them down in the comments below. Let's talk about it. I would love to come back and maybe talk more about another experience that we have with runDisney. So I'll see you next time.